that people understand that as these people wine and dine behind $1.2 billion of security, as they sleep in comfort in five-star hostels and hotels just 5 minutes away from that location, you have people who are living in extreme poverty.
Human rights cannot be sold. Shame on you, miracle. Human rights cannot be sold.
Long live equality! Long live equality! Long live equality!
The Fortress experiment gives people the chance to be all they can be, and Maurice Ali got his chance by meeting our experiment controls as the originator or subject zero of the experiment. As part of the creation of the experiment, he nevertheless became an unwitting part of the experiment as the organizations grew, and as a result, his dreams and goals in business and in advocacy started to look like they could become real. And here is his story.
The free press. Well, I can tell you from my experience, the press isn't free. It costs money, especially if you put out a real paper newspaper and television documentaries like we do at this organization. And what I'd like to do is to show you our 4 goals and how we developed as a news and journalist organization. Step 1 was to start a free speech website and journalist organization. Step 2 was to print our own paper newspaper. Step 3 was to produce our own television documentaries. And step 4 was advocacy and lobbying for journalist rights and freedoms. The first thing I had to do was to start a free speech website where anyone could log on and post news events and stories of interest to the world at large. But we also offered a press card with URL support. What you would have is a typical press card with the usual information, but on the back was a URL that would confirm a cardholder's information from the IAIJ website. In this way, Fortress of Freedom and IAIJ became a partnership that allowed all-in-one services to citizen journalists anywhere in the world.
We have to mount a political campaign in this country. We'd ask you to sign the petition. We'd ask you to take the leaflets that are there and support the War Resisters campaign. And I do want to let people know that there's going to be a public meeting on Thursday, April the 21st at the Innis Town Hall, 2 Sussex. Tom Hayden will be speaking, and Nancy Lesson and Charlie Richardson.
At any rate, we started the newspaper in April of 2004. I remember going to the printers to pick it up and getting that first newspaper and just living that moment. One of the moving moments of my life when I was first given our first issue when I was at the printers. The learning experience, some of the photos aren't the greatest because we had to take them at night, but it came through pretty well. And this was distributed back in April to universities throughout the lower Ontario area. Now the newspaper kept growing, so I figured, you know what, I'd give one of our college kids a helping hand in journalism and make one of them the editor for the paper. So with this girl, I really had a good feeling about it. A York University student putting out a York University newspaper. So it was a shoo-in, and Ainsley Wronski was her name.
No. When you pictures, and it's not full color, it's a black and white.
Yeah.
And it's a color, so like certain parts, like face colors and hair colors, there'll be a color breaking out of the back. I think because a lot of these pictures, they have a lot of meaning to them, you know, they're really powerful pictures. Just, you know, this one, for example, and the one at the top about God will not be mocked. Like, they're very, very powerful pictures, the shots that you got them in, and it needs more of a pop.
She's now a mother of 2. She was a mother of 1 when we first met her at that time. But at any rate, I found the whole idea compelling. A mother going back to university, taking college courses, could also be an editor of a newspaper. All right. Okay, it's must be April the 17th after 12 o'clock. With Ainsley here, it's her first paper.
Hello,
in the middle of the night. She's a bit tired, but whatever.
Long day.
Okay, Ainsley, we won't spend too much time here, but okay, show us that Fortress newspaper that you have.
This is the issue.
Yep, the first issue. Yeah, actually that's our 5th. We're still learning how to put out a paper.
It's
But
working.
anyways, Ainsley, how does it feel? What do you want to tell the folks? Maybe literally, what do you want to tell your folks?
Well, finally it's done. I'm happy it's out. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be when it first
Yeah,
started.
what was the hard part?
Getting people to actually submit the stuff, you know, like asking them, they're like, oh yeah, you know, it's fine, we'll do it, but actually getting it was more or less pulling teeth. So it was a little harder than I thought it would be, but it was, by the end of it, it was pretty good. I got some decent stuff, and so gave me a bunch of more of ideas that I'd like to do, just even as far as adding pictures with articles and different things like that. So.
Now, I think you may be interested in just what does go into making a newspaper. The first step after we decide to actually make a run of another newspaper is to actually take the stories and the photos and format them onto a newspaper program. Okay, what we have here is the newspaper, and on that side is the WordPerfect document, and on this side is the Acrobat Reader, and we are just checking to make sure that all the photographs are where they're supposed to be. Okay, we're on our way to the printers. We proofed it. There's nothing more to do. And it's all going to be on this little disc here. The printer that we used for this paper in question was a printer called Big Bang Printing. We'll just bring it in here. If you guys
we'll kind
want
of
to
explain at the same time what we're doing.
Well, yeah. Oh, okay.
Have it laid out.
Maybe that's the best way, because if I actually give you another CD and start... What we do is we take that Quark Express program or Corel program or whatever we have. We convert it into one continuous PDF file. Typically for us, since we're not a daily, we'd get a call in about a week that the job was done. We'd have to go back to the printers, and there on a skid would be stacks and stacks of these uncollated and unfolded sheets of newsprint. And there you go. We're ready to distribute it all over Ontario and the universities and colleges.
This is the issue of the Fortress paper and the Bell telephone book. So I'm going to put it from there, and everybody grab them.
All right.
Because that's what they do.
Okay, good stuff.
All right.
We're here with Samantha Blackwell. She's interested in joining our organization. Before I go anywhere with this, Samantha, I've got to ask you one question. Why?
We're Fortress of Freedom, and you have music. I don't know.
Okay, that's good enough. Yeah, IIJ is the not-for-profit. So
That's who
really...
you will be volunteering for.
Yeah. Got some papers for the old residency at my old college, so we're just gonna put them in there and go with it. All right. Okay. Okay. There you go. I'm right here. Anything else you want to add for this next issue? I'll hold you to task and we'll come back to this.
I'd like to do a couple of pro bono advertising for really good organizations.
Well, I'm all for that.
I
The only
know
problem
of
is,
a couple.
Will they actually allow their name to be put on this dodgy
Yes.
newspaper?
Yes.
We've got 3 new books. The first one was Tabitha Blair's Family Half Done, fiction based loosely on her own life as a mixed-race family. What do you make of your first book?
I'm extremely excited to finally have it out. It has been a long time, partly my fault because I've been lagging and slagging. But I'm excited for just to have it finally out and have people have a chance to read it, because they've been waiting for it.
And the next book of fiction is The Road and Other Stories by Anna Wendland. Like I said, basically The Road is a big short story, and then there's a lot of little ones in there. But another book of fiction, good reading. And the third book we had on Word on the Street was a rather academic book called Immaterial Forms of Energy and Their Interactions. I'll show you. It's a book of it's handwritten, hand-drawn. It's just as we found it in this notebook of hers, except for the FOF stuff at the front. Okay, we're here with Anna Wendland. It's Word on the Street. We've covered Word on the Street as a news event before, but now we're actually here. And Anna's written 2 books for us. She's actually picking them up here at Word on the Street. So, okay, Anna, I actually caught you reading one of your books. What do you make of the whole thing?
I like it. It's exciting, but I'm also pretty shy. A pretty private writer, so a little bit weary of that.
In what way?
Like, I don't want people to read it.
Okay, just as
I just want to sit on it, and like, when I'm dead, people can read it.
But those are the 3 books we released in at the Word on the Street. We have a couple more books. This is my own book, Protest. It's basically the news stories and photos of protests. It's like archival material. I base a lot of the philosophy at FOF and IIJ based on people's right to express themselves and, in many cases, protest when they don't think things are going the right way. And this is the book that started it all. You know, Dave Getchell's book of music. Literally a book of music. You can see there's notes and all the rest of it. And of course our magazines or our newspapers, The Fortress, were there. You've seen The Fortress before. Okay, we're here with Jason Gibson, and he's the only one here quite near to the U.S. consulate. And I'm just going to ask Jason, why are you here and why aren't you with the other protesters at Nathan Phillips Square?
Well, I would have liked to have gone to Nathan Phillips Square, but I wanted to wheel a PA system and mobile podium to this location outside the American Embassy and provide a way for people to speak clearly and get a message of peace directly to the American people and our own people, so they can understand one another, not just wave their fists and shout with anger, because that doesn't bring about peace. I think we have to organize and manage our resources and look for a brighter future.
There you go.
There we go.
How can we define one's life? Possibly by one's greatest achievements and challenges. So this is what we are going to look for.
We were also starting to get into video. I just purchased our first video camera, Sony PD-170 camera, Newsman's run and gun camcorder. So I decided to test this out at an event called Word on the Street.
Word on the Street is a literary fair being held on this day, September 26, 2004, in Toronto, Canada. Here, writers of all kinds get together to display their talents and interact with other writers and the public. Roaming around the fair here, talking to everybody here. What's your name, sir?
Jason Van Eyck.
Jason. What's your organization do?
We're at the Canadian Music Centre. We're a music information centre for Canadian composers.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Roger Tulk. I'm a director of the Canadian Writers Foundation. What we are is a foundation that supports Canadian writers who have fallen into hard times, usually because of old age or infirmity.
Having a good time at the fair here today, and we ran into Mark Moore, writer Mark Moore. Brings you to the fair today, Mark?
Well, Rogue Planet brings me to the fair today, Dan. We're here to promote our books, Years of the Monkey and Naked Dreams.
Very good. This is Dan Strudwick reporting for Fortress of Freedom News.
Advocacy with the International Association of Independent Journalists is not so much a step-by-step process as it is more like telling a story. It was a journey, and like all journeys had a beginning, and that was during the taping of the original Fortress TV show, when I stated the objectives of the organization and my own personal goals.
In the future, what plans do you have to develop this organization?
Well, our most immediate plans is to get media accreditation with the UN. I'd also like to get NGO status with the UN. That would allow us to work in workshops and lobby on an international level. And my ultimate goal is to actually speak personally to the countries that are participating in the United Nations. That would be my ultimate goal.
It's a good goal.
Well, that's my personal goal. The ultimate goal of our organization is to expand throughout the world and to enhance and secure freedom of speech through freedom of the press and individual freedoms of speech and thought. We got in on that concept of modern-day citizen journalism from the start, and we wanted to do advocacy on behalf of citizen journalists and bloggers, and finally have them accepted as legitimate media workers on the world stage. Oh, we've got the credibility. We're reaching for the UN.
Okay. And after that, what's that?
Well, ultimately, I want to give a speech on the floor of the General Assembly. That's what I want to do. And I want to leave this earth, because I'm not getting any younger, knowing that I left some kind of legacy for the other people so that they can actually think without being brainwashed through the mass media, or say speak their mind without worrying whether they're going to go to jail or whether they're going to be ostracized, right? I mean, I'm not the only one. At the beginning, the association was just a sub-forum on our website. To make it a real association, we would have to incorporate it as a not-for-profit.
That's the big document.
Now that we were an actual not-for-profit NGO, we had to figure out a way to make it to the United Nations as we planned. UNESCO, a special agency of the UN, had taken up the cause of citizen journalists killed while documenting news events in some countries. So we figured becoming members with UNESCO would be the best way to do this. In Canada, we have the Canadian Commission for UNESCO, and we applied to become institutional members there and see if that could be the entry point to advocacy for IIJ. Okay, it's November the 12th, 2009, and we are about to go to Ottawa and try to pay a surprise visit to UNESCO. So we're driving to Ottawa. Hopefully we're going the right way for our big meeting with UNESCO. A long time coming, since 2004, and it's all coming to a head now. There she is, Susan Earps, eating the food. And here I am, if you can see me. Yes, we're halfway there on our fateful trip to UNESCO. That's where we're going to. So we're getting off.
Yeah, Joyceville. Yeah, the next highway is 32, but you want number 16, which is
you got it.
Which is
right here.
All right, you're going on 32.
No, 16. No, this is 16 here. You want 16.
I mean, it's okay.
All right. Cross your fingers. Hi, Catherine Berg. This is Morris Alley from IIJ. I'm okay. Listen, we're actually doing business here in Ottawa. I'm actually at the front of your building. I just wanted to know if we could just do a short meet and greet. I'd just like to place a face to a person I've been talking to for a while, and we normally don't get to Ottawa, regularly, but today we are. So, is that possible? We'll just do it right now. I won't take up too much of your time, but I just want to see who these people are that I'm talking to, and maybe you can place the face too. Okay. I'm actually parked right in front, so we'll just come up to the 12th floor and just have a little meet. Okay, appreciate it. See you in a little while. Bye-bye. Okay, game on. Me and Susan are just going to give a little rundown of what we did, what we should have done, maybe how it went, and where it's going to go. I just want to archive this thing while we still have Sue here. She's leaving later today to go back to England. So my take on things, I don't know.
Okay. The woman gave us quite a lot of time, an hour and a half, and she seemed quite interested in what Maurice had to say. She had a few points that she brought up. One being that the whole thing's a one-man show, but
well, you were there too.
But I was there too. I don't think they quite understand how the organisation works, and I assume that any questions that are going to be asked are going to be directly regarding exactly how the organisation works, and does it reflect the kind of organisations that they already have in their in UNESCO or have joined UNESCO. Whether we can answer those or not to their satisfaction, I really don't know. She didn't. I asked her directly whether they would take us on as we are or not, and she didn't say yes and she didn't say no. She kind of played the politician of the not giving you a direct answer. So that always means that I suspect that if I suspect it was just being diplomatic, maybe, to not say no directly, though quite frankly it would have just solved their problem and that would have been the end of it. So I think there's things that they, I think it's as an organisation we are of a thing of interest to them because they've never come across anything like this before, and if nothing else, it's going to make them. You're right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
If nothing else, it's actually hopefully will make them start broadening their horizons, as it were, to the type of people that they take on board.
We shall see. But I rate it at 50-50. You can go either way at the end of the day. So we applied and met a representative from the commission. And the only thing to do now was to wait. And lo and behold, in July of 2011, we were accepted. I was driving up the driveway and I saw this big white envelope in the mailbox. And when I pulled it out, it was from the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. So there it is. A couple of years, but there we are. Being a member of the Canadian Commission for UNESCO meant that we could attend their annual general meeting in Ottawa, and it was there that we would start to push for citizen journalist rights and freedoms. Okay, it's May the 10th, 2012. I'm at the Delta City Hotel, and we're here for the annual general meeting of the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. I recall that we actually went to 350 Albert Street, called Constitution Square, and had a meeting with the Special Advisor to the Secretary General, about an hour and a half. And lo and behold, the room they gave me has a bird's eye view. We're right across the street from where all that happened. As a matter of fact, these guys are on the 12th floor, but zoom in on this. This is where it happened. We even have videotape of me going in there. Constitution Square. How about that for coincidence? You're trying to become members, and here I am at the convention in a hotel room, looking down at where we were just dreaming about becoming members. My primary goal is to start that citizen journalist initiative and start having that term turn up in UNESCO documents worldwide. And this is just the start. This is what it is. We actually wear suits, and we wear our little placards with our name and organization. We actually look like a regular conventioneers. I show up with my laptop and my tablet and my cell phones, and we also have our folders with our programs and books and stuff. It's a reception and 2 days of meetings. Day 2 is an all-day meeting, and the third day on Saturday is a half a day, and then we take off to wherever we came from and enjoy the balance of the weekend and get ready for the new week. That's about it for now. I've got plenty of work ahead. I'm not going to let them forget about this and let it wither away and die. We are going straight forward. I want to go to Paris. I want to make sure that this thing does not slip out of my fingers. So what can I say? It's a big thing for me, and we'll just see where it takes us. So the long and short of it was the communications person at the Commission put me on to the people in the Freedom of Expression Division at UNESCO headquarters in Paris, France. And in the end, we produced an extensive report on citizen journalism and got an invite to the first World Summit of the Information Society Review meetings, also called WASIS Plus 10. That would update things from the original World Summit of the Information Society and would end with the adoption of the recommendations sometime in late 2015 at UN headquarters in New York. Our session on citizen journalism at the first review meeting was on February the 27th, 2013, so we arrived on the first day of the review in Paris on February 25th for the opening ceremonies. Okay, that's Paris. You can see there's snow everywhere. Unfriggin' real. We were at the first conference, or conference room run, which is a big one that, if you know anything about UNESCO, you're familiar with. It's the one where they have all the major international votes, like the vote to allow Palestine membership. So that was kind of an experience to be there in a rather famous place.
Okay, our first speaker today is Maurice Allen, who is the founder of the International Association of Independent Journalists, which is a registered not-for-profit journalist association with offices in Toronto and London. The association caters to amateur and professional journalists with advocacy and support services. And I'll stop there and hand over to Maurice.
First of all, thank you for everybody for showing up and the organizers. Now, I'll just quickly go through a few recommendations.
Very quickly.
Yeah. One, it is recommended that the concept of citizen journalists continue to be formalized and institutionalized in the same way as traditional journalism. Two, that citizen journalists be afforded the same rights of access as those in traditional media. Three, some measure of protection should be given to citizen journalists at news events. Four, some form of collaboration between citizen journalists and traditional news reporting media should be encouraged. And finally, with 96% of citizen journalists in our study relying on the internet for dissemination of their information, it is recommended that all affected stakeholders continue to monitor and lobby relevant organizations to keep the internet free of censorship and other barriers to information and of acquisition and or dissemination. That's it.
Great. Thank you very much. Yep. Right. In a slight, thank you very much, in a slight change.
What did I make of the session? Well, the speech didn't go without incident. There were a couple of issues. One being that I was speaking so fast that the French interpreter actually came down to tell me to slow down so that she could properly interpret what I was saying to the French people in the audience. After all the opening speeches, there was a question and answer segment where IIJ actually got to shine. We have produced our own newspapers, magazines. We've put documentaries on mainstream TV nationwide. for less than it cost us to do our little newsletter, like $1,000 coast to coast in Canada after Saturday Night Live, or daytime programming, which is about 10% of a person's annual salary that can be combined with other people if need be. Citizen journalists are not necessarily wedded to the internet, and you're going to see them branch out into more and more areas traditionally inhabited by professional journalism. Sorry.
Thank you. Maurice, you had an interesting question there about questions of institutionalization, human rights, and so forth.
Yeah, with regards to the first question, by formalizing and institutionalizing the term citizen journalist, what I mean. Okay, and what is Cyrus?
Cyrus is a purebred American Pit Bull Terrier.
Yeah. Okay, and why are you here at Queen's Park?
I'm here because I believe that the law banning them is very cruel and unjust. So, I consider it, quite frankly, a Holocaust. We're slaughtering all sorts of very beautiful, very emotional animals. Hey, Cyrus? See what a happy dog he is?
Yeah. So we had our first score at the UN level, with journalists' rights actually making it to the session's final statement. The review meetings would continue and then move on to the UN in New York in 2015, and IIJ wanted to be there to be a part of it. But to do that, we would have to apply for consultative status at the UN, which meant extensive vetting by member states. We jumped through all the application hoops and finally got an invite to the UN in January of 2015, where our application for consultative status would be heard. Okay, we're here in New York, the Big Apple. This is the room I'm in. I just arrived. First day, what can I say? First day was basically what you expect. You're very excited. I mean, it's the UN. Well, I'm here for what it's worth. We've made it into the UN. We're actually at the UN buildings, and we'll just go see what happens from here. It was the start. I figured I was going to go back to the room, eat something, come back for the afternoon shift, but there was this huge snowstorm coming, and they had declared a state of emergency, so the UN was shut down after 2:30. From the origins of our organization, today marks the end of a campaign for a goal. We've made it to the UN. We're in the UN. I've actually got a UN pass and all that till the 4th. I'll make the most of it. I have no idea how we are going to be received, but I wanted to be at the forefront of this stuff, and here I am. So that's about it. We'll just have to wait till Wednesday morning and see what happens. I did take advantage of the day and a half that the UN was down to prepare myself from what I could glean while I was there. But it was grim. What else? I don't know. I really don't know. We just have to play the game and see how it goes. This is politics. The people I'm dealing with are representatives of nation states. They're not bureaucrats, and it's just different. So on Thursday, things progressed as normal, and I was kind of wondering when they would get to us, and sure enough, our name came up. All right, okay, so yeah, Cuba and the Islamic Republic of Iran had problems with their little journalist org, so that put it on delay, and the only way that I could possibly get consultative status with the UN was to answer those questions at their Q&A session at 5 o'clock, and unbelievably my name came up at 5:30. Of course, I didn't know if I was going to go up there, so I just had something half-baked, and the question was, well, what do you say to these people who are interested in your organization for consultative status? Well, what I decided on is basically the welcome statement on our webpage, the first one, which is the mission statement, as I wrote it and as it was presented at the front, at the high table at the front of conference room 1. I was on the corner with a little sign that says NGO. And as I recall, I had this long walk because I was up in the rafters, and when you sit down there, it's unnerving because you're with the Secretariat and the Chairman, and then all these delegates of nationalities are right there on the same level, and they're all staring at you. And so I croaked it out. Greetings, Mr. Chairman and members of the High Table, distinguished delegates, and my fellow NGOs. It is also a support group, and we will try to help each other out to become better journalists and to support the democratic right to tell the news to our fellow citizens as we see it. I'll now be happy to answer any questions you have about our organization. The strange part was Cuba and Iran didn't have anything to say. It was the others, and it started off with, I think, Venezuela, who wanted to know what I was doing in their country, which wasn't much. Then Russia came in, and he was asking questions about our press ID cards and where the money was coming from, since I seem to run all these corporations. Then it was Pakistan, who wanted to know what was going on. Did we have an office in their place? And who else? Nicaragua. They also wanted to know what was, well, they wanted a written reply. It means there's no way they can ask to get consultative status in there. You've got to reply after the fact that it's delayed to probably the next session 6 months later. So I'll have to check. I think that's it. But no, it was just one after another. It was brutal. And another guy that was on the list but didn't get up there, he told me it was brutal. I got roasted. So there's not much more I can do, but just answer their questions and wait. And they're probably going to drag it out too. These places, they saw what happened in Egypt. They don't want citizen journalism. They don't want guys like me hanging around there. And that's the bottom line. So if you're going to go out, you may as well go out swinging, and you may as well go out in flames. So that's what happened. And that's it. I'm not going to show up there tomorrow. I'll go there to eat at their cafeteria, since they have a fabulous cafeteria at the UN. But that's it. I've had enough of that. I'm done for the time being. We may get it later on, but whatever. I don't care anymore. This is brutal. It was not looking good for acceptance anytime soon, and we would have to apply as outsiders if we were to have any say at the UN before final adoption of the recommendations. So we applied to speak at one of the informal stakeholder General Assembly events in July. This was a competition of sorts to get to speak, but we got lucky and got an invitation to speak to member nations at the afternoon session on July 2nd, 2015. We got an invite to the event, which was July the 1st. And yeah, we went there. The only thing I had to note prior to that is that my mom was taken to the emergency actually by me, her and my father. The Sunday before, she was having pains in her back and moving around, and they found out there was a slight tear in one of her aortas, but it looked like it could be treated medically without surgery. And she was originally admitted to North York General and then sent to Toronto General downtown, where they had the heart specialist. So things were looking okay. So she says, you know, go to the World Summit meeting in New York. How did it go? Well, the first day I figured I might pop in and see what was happening with the General Assembly meeting. That was the first part of it. And it was, it looks like they took off after a half a day, so they finished all their business, so it was up to us the next day. Which, surprise to me, was another General Assembly meeting. I know it's just nomenclature, but that was a big deal, General Assembly.
I call to order the informal interactive stakeholder consultation on the review of the implementation of the outcomes of the World Summit on the Information Society. I would like to warmly welcome to these informal consultations all representatives, especially those representing the relevant stakeholders. This informal interactive consultation, held in accordance with Resolution 68/302 of 31st July 2014, provides all relevant stakeholders of the World Summit on the Information Society an opportunity to contribute their views to the preparatory process for the review of the implementation of the World Summit on the Information Society outcomes in a day of interactive panel discussions with member states and representatives from various multi-stakeholder groups.
It was held in the ECOSOC chambers. Anyways, unbeknownst to me, I had a chair set up, actually third from the front on the right-hand side if you're looking down from the gallery. So I had two people beside me, and then it was me. I didn't know it at the time, so I just hung out a little bit farther back in the stakeholder area. I was last on the list, and sure enough, I was last to be called up. I ran down my speech. As far as I know, everything went well.
Our next speaker now is Mr. Maurice Ali, International Association of Independent Journalists. The floor is yours. Please be succinct. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the President of the UN General Assembly and the other co-facilitators for this opportunity. Distinguished representatives of member states, stakeholder panelists, and stakeholder respondents, and everyone else in attendance today. Greetings to everyone. My name is Maurice Ali, and I'm the president of a citizen journalist association called the International Association of Independent Journalists. Much of WASIS is about acquisition and dissemination of information in this technological age. And citizen journalists embrace that concept more than many other groups. Their ability to have ready access to information pertinent to their reporting, along with the mechanisms to disseminate information to the public, could well be one way of evaluating the ultimate impact of WASIS. Our attendance here today is a reminder of the very real impact good policymaking can have in enriching all our lives for the better. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for your intervention.
The informal interactive stakeholder consultation on the review of implementation of the outcomes of the World Summit on the Information Society is now concluded. The meeting is adjourned.
But at any rate, okay, finished my speech. I heard some grumblings that Mom may not be doing as well as possible whenever I connected the Wi-Fi, but I turned on the radios and wanted to find out what's going on, and Mom was taking a turn for the worse, so I basically hailed a cab right there at the UN, at the front of the UN, and told the guy to drive over to my hotel, and I grabbed my bag, which was ready to go, and then wanted him to take me to the LaGuardia as fast as possible.
Okay, Mom's in really bad shape. We're racing down there. I just hope I make it in time.
I just flew all the way downtown, letting my sister know as I got on to the next street, the next part of the journey down to the hospital. And I made it. The idea was to ditch the car on the sidewalk in front of the hospital and just run up to the CICU ward. But there was a police officer rolling slowly down the road there in front of the hospital, so I had to park it in the underground parking lot and then run up the car ramps because I didn't want to get lost as I always did, or lose my bearings like I always did when I didn't go up the car ramp. She's in this ward with a whole bunch of family gathered around her in chairs, and yeah, I got to meet her while she was still conscious, alert, and awake, and I told her I loved her, and then we had a private conversation about what to do with the family and all that when she's gone, and then, I showed her some photos and stuff of my trip to New York. When all that was said and done, I had to take some family members home, so I had my last look at her and then walked behind some curtains, and that was the last I ever saw of her. A whole lot of things have to be done. It's not fun. It adds a layer of complexity I didn't have before, so doing everything gets a bit harder. But the heavy lifting has been done, and that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. Because we had spoken at the first review meeting in Paris and at the UN in New York this past summer, we were invited to the UN adoption ceremony on the floor of the General Assembly Hall in December of 2015. After 2.5 years, citizen journalists and bloggers were to be finally recognized as legitimate media workers with all the protections of traditional journalists. Just going to recap what happened so far at the WASIS Plus 10 meeting in the General Assembly Hall at the UN, where they're going to adopt the agreed document. So at the end of this story or journey, we were part of the process to have citizen journalists legitimized at the United Nations with the same rights and protections as traditional journalists. For me personally, I was able to speak to member nations at the UN on 2 separate occasions about journalist rights and freedoms. And I actually did get that ultimate goal of giving a speech on the floor of the General Assembly, as my WASIS speech at the UN was General Assembly, and the moderator even told me I had the floor before I gave my speech. It's just strange where life will take you if you actually allow yourself to pursue your dreams and goals. IIJ will definitely continue on its mission past my tenure as president of the organization, and who knows where it's going to end. It's not going to end with the end of this TV show, that's for sure.